It's 9.95%. It's cheaper cost of doing business than all those other industry standards. I bet if you do this exercise, you're going to find that it's a very advantageous cost of doing business on PalmStreet. Man, there's been a lot of chatter about what PalmStreet charges, how the fees work. Is it advantageous for you to sell on PalmStreet strictly from a fee and financial standpoint? So we're going to start with just a set of facts of policies and fees and how the fees work. Secondly, I'm going to show you an invoice of an actual sale, and we'll pick apart the line items, and I'll show you exactly where everything hits, what fees are what, who pays what fees. And then what we're going to do is we're going to compare those to selling on MorphMarket. We'll compare them to selling at a local show. We'll compare them to selling at Tinley, our industry's biggest show. And we'll see where all these numbers fall. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I'm wearing my educational hat, not my promotional hat, give you my honest experiences, and I'll back it up with numbers and, as the kids say, receipts. Thanks for being here today. Let's get to it. If we haven't met before, my name's Adam. I am the breeder and founder behind Proper Royals. Full disclosure, I do work with PalmStreet. I'm proud to work with them. I like explaining my experiences on PalmStreet. And if those experiences seem beneficial to you and fit your business model, then go to it. Go check it out. I think that you should. It's a great platform. If you're not familiar, it's a live stream, live selling platform. Auctions, purges, shops. You could sell things at retail. You could sell them at auctions. You can run specials, promos. Imagine it like a virtual Main Street. And for me, I breed and sell ball pythons, and I sell them on PalmStreet. I get a lot of feedback about fees on PalmStreet. There's a factual set of policies that you will pay if you sell on PalmStreet. We're going to get to those in just one second. But then there's the perception of, is it good business? Is that too much? Does it seem not predatory, but opportunistic maybe, or taking advantage of a seller? I don't think that that's the case. I'll explain why I don't think it's the case, but you can make your own decision. Again, I'll just share the facts, and I'll share how these fees interact with my revenues and my own business model, and I'll do it transparently like I always do. So let's get to some of these factual things first, okay? PalmStreet has no subscription fees. You don't have to pay anything to start on PalmStreet. You could go download the app. You can apply to start selling, get your approval to start selling reptiles, and you can populate your store. You can run lives. You can run auctions, and none of that costs you a penny. It doesn't cost you a penny up front. You don't have to make any commitment. You could try it once, throw it away, and leave it. You don't have to do anything, and you're never going to have to sign up for something. It's not like a gym. They give you like 2 times free, and then you got to sign your year-long commitment. There is not a subscription. There's not ever an upfront cost, okay? Full stop. There you go. One thing I like about PalmStreet that you got to think about, there's no ads. So we could sell on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and you're not allowed to because of the terms of service, because they're live animals. So if you do sell, you got to talk in code, you got to risk losing your accounts, you got to worry about all that stuff that we worry about in this industry. PalmStreet welcomes you. And on those platforms, the free platforms, they pay for their free cost by making you watch ads, right? Ads go in your feed all the time. I post ads. Maybe one of my ads is coming to your feed. That's how they make their business. PalmStreet, there are no paid ads on PalmStreet. Food for thought. So how does PalmStreet make money? Always a very, very important question to ask when you enter into a business relationship. How does somebody make money? It's not necessarily your business, how much money they make, but the ethics, their business model, their views, their mission, their beliefs, that comes into play when you start asking, how does somebody make money? So here's how PalmStreet makes money. And this is all on their website, their blogs, their information page, terms of service, whatnot. You can check that out. Here's how it goes. When you sell something, you are going to pay a fee. I see it as an effective commission, but call it what you want, of 6.9% of the sale. There you go. Like it, don't like it, that's the factual part. You do pay that part. The second component doesn't actually go to PalmStreet, but the effective cost still trickles down to you, which is a payment processing fee. Just like any company in the world, if you've ever worked or purchased something with a credit card, somebody somewhere is paying about 2.9%. Let's just call it 3%. Generally, it's the seller that pays it. If you pay at the grocery store, you don't see, well, you might these days, but generally you don't see that extra 3% on the bottom of your expenses. But I am starting to see that in restaurants. They pass on the credit card fees to the customer, which is actually kind of weird. You're going to pay that basically 3%. Some of them are 3.2, some of them are 2.9, some of them have introductory rates, all that good stuff. I'll show you exactly what I'm paying. Mine is 2.9%. So if you take 6.9% plus 2.9%, you're going to come up with right around 10%. You're going to be just under 10%, 9.7 or 9.8, something like that. That's the facts. You can decide whether that's a good value or it's not a good value, but those are the facts and how the fee structure works. Let's check out an actual invoice that I have from a sale, and I'll take you through what those fees mean and who's paying what. And sometimes the initial impression or perception is incorrect. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from that in like the comments section of Instagram Reels or whatnot. And there's a little more to explaining it than just what I feel like typing in a comment section, because then it turns lectury or invites like confrontation or tone gets lost. That's not what I'm here for. I'm totally here for education on this topic. Okay, let's check out an actual invoice. Here's an animal that I sold, an Enchi Super Gravel male. You're gonna pop up the invoice right here. Okay, this is an actual order from a recent sale that I made on PalmStreet. One thing to notice, did you notice that that's at retail? It's not at auction. It's not at wholesale prices. It's not at clearinghouse. I populated it in the shop. I do shows where I show off animals. I show people around the shop. I clean. I do my chores in the shop. And this is a sale from one of those lives where somebody purchased an animal in the shop that was listed at full retail. Very cool. The total collected from the buyer in this transaction was $442.50. If you see, there's a little arrow that I've dropped down on this invoice, and that will show every penny of everything that's going on. So the animal costs $375, plus I charge a $45 shipping fee. The seller also paid tax on the animal. PalmStreet calculates the tax in the local jurisdiction of the buyer. So whatever the buyer's local sales tax is, that's what they pay. Fantastic. If you run a business above water, even at a local show, like here in Minnesota, I have to pay sales tax on all of my sales. Generally, I don't charge the buyer sales tax. If it's $375 at a live show, I don't go, it's $375 plus 6.75%. It's $375. Thank you very much. I pay the $675, 6.75% at each month when my sales taxes are due. This is pretty nice. They're collecting it from the seller. They pay it. I never see that tax. I don't have to worry about it, which also does make me wonder, at the end of the year statement, I need to make sure I include that in my tax filings that I have paid those sales taxes. Anyhow, that's a different discussion for another time. So $442.50 is what is collected from the buyer on this transaction. Now, let's come down to the fees and the deductions from there. And I'm actually going to post up a different picture of this invoice. And I've got it color coded. Red is what the buyer paid. Green is what I paid. I'm the seller. That is what I paid in this transaction. And we're going to talk about some of that. So you could see up top here on the 442, all of that was paid. 442 was paid by the buyer. That's put in. Third party payment fee, $13.13. That is the credit card processing payment fee. So again, if I use Square at a show, if I use PayPal that's not friends and family, if I use Venmo that's not a gift or whatever it is, basically if the buyer gets some sort of buyer reassurance, there's going to be that 2.9% fee. $13.13. That came out of my pocket for doing business here. Then the base selling fee, that's that 6.9%. Make it 7% for easy math. 7% times $375. You're going to get basically $25 is what you're looking at on that fee. That's that 6.9%. That is how PalmStreet makes their money. They provide this good, this service, this platform. That's their fee that they charge. Okay, that tax number that comes out, remember, we were never getting that tax money in the first place. That's on top of the $375 that we were asking for the animal. So that's just a pass through. It gets collected and then it gets taken back out. I never saw it. That's a wash. That is zero. So what is left of the $442.50 that was collected is $382.09. To recap really quick, the circles in green come out to just under 10%. Look at this. 24 plus 13 is 37. And 10% of 375 would be 3750. And that's right, basically bang on where we're at. So we're landing at just at 10%. In full transparency and all, honesty, out of that 382, I still have to pay for shipping. So I collected the shipping money, but I still have to pay it, right? Because you're not going to have an animal for 375, fees collected, dues paid, whatever it might be, and end up with more with 382. We still got to pay shipping out of that. Okay, all of those percentages, it's easy to get really lost in all of that stuff. Let's talk about, to sell a $375 animal on PalmStreet, what landed in my pocket at the end of the day, and what was the total cost of doing business. Okay, check this out. It's $375. That's what we listed the animal for. That's what it sold for. All the other stuff is extra white noise that, sure, we want to track and know what's going on, but we really want to know what we made. PalmStreet distributed $382.09 to me. My actual shipping cost was $41.42 to ship that animal. In fairness, yes, I had the cost of the box as well. I'm not sure. You know what? Let's just say it's $3 that I pay for shipping boxes. So 44.42 is what I paid out of pocket. Let's put an extra $3 on top of there just to keep everything kosher here. So that means after what PalmStreet distributed to me and what I paid for actual shipping through Redline Shipping, I walked home with $337.67. Let's take the difference of the total sale, my gross, and then take the difference of my net. It's $37.33. What is the percentage cost of doing business on PalmStreet? If we turn that into a percentage, we see it comes out at 9.95%. Do we like that? Don't we like that? How do we decide if we like that or don't like that? Let's compare some numbers, okay? All right, here we go. This is where it gets real and where, all the comments start coming in. So understand, I realize that this is imperfect. We could find a nickel and a dime of a cost here. We could find a way to save it here and there. So there are people that would say, well, that's why I only demand buyers pay friends and family only, so I don't have to eat the 2.9%. That's great, and I understand that it's your choice. I operate differently. This is just how I operate, my choices. So you might find opportunities to increase these costs of doing business across different platforms. I'm just trying to tell you how I operate my business. The one point I will accentuate is the really total value proposition that PalmStreet brings. It's a live selling platform. It's all integrated, and you get to connect on an even more personal level with your buyers. That, to me, is going to be a differentiating factor when I consider some of these other selling platforms. And there's going to be some of these selling platforms that are way higher cost of doing business that I still choose to do business there because they have their own value proposition that comes with that value of a higher cost of doing business. So all of this is food for thought. It's not a definitive decision maker. I use all of these different platforms. There's a reason. All of them have a place in my business model. PalmStreet is one of those for me. Let's get to it. MorphMarket. The industry standard right now for selling reptiles. People, everything is judged by MorphMarket. Love it, hate it, use it, think it's okay, no problem, fine. All of the above are welcome. I'm not here to debate any of that with you. I'm here to share my experience on MorphMarket. It is now November 27th in the year 2025. So we are through 11/12 of the year. I may do a little more sales this year. I may not on MorphMarket. We will see. Up to this point, right here, right now, though, I have sold 7 animals this year for a grand total revenue of $3,350. $3,350. My expenses, $131 is my annual subscription fee for MorphMarket. Not too bad on the surface, $131 versus $3,350. Okay, pretty good. Let's take into account that $3,350 does not include shipping. I will acknowledge some of those animals I include shipping on, some the buyer pays. So let's say I paid for shipping on half of those sales and my average price for shipping is $45. The other thing is the card processing fees. Again, I generally don't insist people pay friends and family. If they want to, Very cool. I'm appreciative of it. If they want the buyer protection that comes from using credit cards and the value therein, somebody's got to pay for that. It ends up being me. Let's say that half of the people paid with credit card, and that's this formula here, 2.9%, half of my sales on 3350. Put all that into a blender, spit it out. My expenses to sell $3,350 on MorphMarket this year ended up at $337.08. My cost of doing business on MorphMarket is 10.06%. Negligible difference from the 9.95. I'm not about to split 1/10 of 1% of a hair here. So those are pretty negligible differences. Again, the value add for me and where I'm more comfortable on a camera setting in a live selling setting, that's sort of my bread and butter, as I'll show you through here. PalmStreet over delivers for me on those neck and neck costs. Your mileage may vary, make your own choice from there. Let's take a look at some other examples though. Tinley. I love Tinley. There's a huge value to me in going to Tinley and being part of the industry standard. That's Tinley Park NARBC show. It's the industry standard that everybody wants to get into to vend at. So I'm going to use my most recent Tinley experience, which is frankly my best ever that I've ever done. So this is the best ever cost of doing business I've ever had at Tinley. Let's go through this. I sold $6,000 in revenue. Pretty banging good weekend, I got to say, for a dude like me. I'm pretty pleased with that. My expenses, though, for Tinley were as follows. Basically, $500 for the table. It's $600 for 3 nights of hotel in Tinley. Tinley Park is not a slouch of a place for lodging. My food for 3 days at Tinley, plus another half day of travel on each end. Let's call it $250. I have to travel about 6.5 hours each way, $160 worth of gas. And again, let's say that half of the people pay with a card that I have to pay a processing fee of 2.9% on. That comes out to my expenses for Tinley this past October were $1,597, basically $1,600. That comes out to a cost of doing business of 26.62%. Adam, what are you doing Tinley for? The relationships, the business behind the business, the opportunities that come with Tinley, fine. I will pay that 26.62%, but that is twice a year and only in Tinley that I deal with a cost of doing business of that high. That is a lot of money. Let's take a typical local show. Now, these are a little bit harder to quantify because you could have a really good local show, you could have a really tough local show, but if you do enough of them, they start to average out. And throughout the year, I do somewhere between 22 and 26 shows a year, depending on the calendar and if there's no conflicts or anything. And I can tell you of the local ones, I usually average around $2,200 a show. Not too bad for a Sunday afternoon's worth of work. Generally, they're one-day shows on Sundays. So $2,200. And again, this is the local. So the local here in town, I'm not getting a hotel, very little bit of gas. My typical table fees are about $210. Some are a little bit cheaper, some are a little bit more. They average out to around $210. I generally vend with 2 tables. So $210. And let's just say I spent $20 on coffee, donut, a little bit of a lunch sandwich, and a bottle of water. That's kind of my kit for a day of vending, $20. And then again, that same formula, half the people pay with a card that I need to take the card processing fees. Sure, some people pay cash, some people pay Venmo, friends and family. A lot of business is done on Square for me at live shows, 2.9%. Plug that in, and I get $261.90 as my typical expenses for a local show. Okay, 11.9%. Not so bad, actually, for the local. I still have to, and none of this have I calculated my time as well. PalmStreet is quick and easy when it comes to how much time it takes of mine, but that's a different story, and I don't even want to bother trying to quantify that or sending these things off the rails. Let's just talk actual cash cost. 11.9% doing business, slightly higher than PalmStreet. I love local shows because these are my hottest leads for customers. We don't have to ship. I can work face-to-face with them. They could call on me when they have questions, and if I'm playing my cards right, I'm getting them to buy rodents from me, so I'm getting residual revenues down the line. Not so bad. 11.9%, pretty good value proposition for me there. Away shows, same $2,200. Away shows I classify as the shows that I have to get a hotel for. I don't do many of these. Tinley is one of them. There's a couple other shows that become worthwhile, but they're still pretty relatively expensive. I'll show you what I'm talking about. They're away shows, but they're still like smaller regional type shows kind of thing. So Fargo, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Des Moines, Iowa, those are longer drives for me that I have to get a hotel to make it practical to vend those shows. Table fees, $220. Typical hotel night, $140. Food while I'm on the road over basically 2 days. So I've still got the vending food, but then I got to eat breakfast. I got to eat dinner the night before I'm traveling. It's called that $100. And let's just say on the low side, gas is $80. And then that same formula of half of the buyers paying at 2.9%. Those come in as an average cost of $572 to do the show. If I average $2,200 in revenue, that is 26% flat on the cost of doing business on away shows. Versus PalmStreet, I should be doing PalmStreet sales and focusing that much on that versus doing away shows. I do still find value in away shows. They're regional. I do them multiple times a year, so I can still build relationships in a local market in those away markets. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of overhead. That's a high margin. So I really look closely at what shows I do home and away. But that's getting away from the point that the 9.95% that we said cost of doing business from PalmStreet is actually very, very advantageous. Are you good at selling on PalmStreet? Are the customers coming to your shows? That's on you. That takes some marketing. That takes building a brand. That's all the stuff that PalmStreet can't guarantee that. That's on you that you got to build and put in the time and effort for. But the 9.95% total cost of doing business is a very, very advantageous value proposition in my opinion. And that is why I choose to do so much business on PalmStreet. The personal interaction, the opportunity to show off my facility, to show off my animals in real time, how I care for them, what I do to care for them, to show off me and to connect with people that way at a very advantageous cost of doing business of 9.9%, 9.95% versus these other industry standards. Nice job, PalmStreet. That is why I choose to do business with PalmStreet. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think I've missed on. If I've misrepresented anything, please let me know. I don't think that I have. What are your thoughts, though? And what are your hurdles and why you choose to do business on PalmStreet? I'd love to hear your input on it. Thanks for checking out the video today, especially if you made it this far. And if you really like what you see today, feel free to give a like and subscribe. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time.